Your dad's birthday's coming up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Tuesday.
How old?
Oh, 41? 70. Somewhere between 40 and 70.
He's not 70, is he?
He's getting up there. I think he's 68.
Jeez.
Yeah.
He doesn't look a day over 67.
Well, he is. I'm sorry to break your heart. He's a day over 67.
He's a young 70 then, if that's the case.
Yeah. He's spry, he's still working. Still employed, gainfully employed.
Well, weird thing to say about a 68.
Holding down a job.
Retired.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He hasn't retired. He's
is he still at McDonald's?
It is so weird that I was about to make the same joke. That I was about to joke about him being at McDonald's, which is actually unfairly dismissive of people that work at McDonald's. But no, he is still working. Hasn't slowed down.
I'd love to see your dad at McDonald's.
Oh God, I can't even envisage it.
I'd love to see, because I get embarrassed. I don't eat at McDonald's or any fast food restaurant, like dining in, because I'm too afraid. Only drive through, because if the worst thing about eating McDonald's, for example, is the idea that someone could see you eating McDonald's. Everything else is absolutely fine. You've got a shame.
You got a shame aspect to your enjoyment of this food type.
Yeah, I mean, if that weren't the case, if there was no shame, I'd be eating there a lot. I'd be a lot fatter.
Okay, so it's actually good.
Yeah,
you're saying this is actually healthy, that you feel disgusted in yourself for enjoying McDonald's.
100%. I'm glad for it.
Well, maybe they could market that a little bit more. Like, start to put out some private booths, or when you go in to eat, they give you a paper bag to put over your head. Like, just kind of simple but inclusive techniques to really open that market up.
A Ronald McDonald mask.
No, Hamburglar mask.
Good point. Very good point. Hamburglar, just over the top of the eyes.
Just over the face.
Maybe a wig. Maybe, what about like a combination?
You
Hamburger
can embody
eyes, Ronald McDonald wig, and that's just what
giant purple grimace fat suit.
That's a happy
everyone that eats at McDonald's has to dress in a fully enclosed grimace suit just to hide any kind of body differentiation.
Only if they want to.
Okay. If they're confident, they don't need to.
Yeah. When was the last time you ate at McDonald's?
Good. Oh, God. I'm not even sure I could name the decade. The 90s?
The 90s. You haven't had a cheeseburger in at least 20 years, you're saying?
Well, I mean, I've eaten burgers at other burger places, but no, at McDonald's, I wouldn't have eaten something since, 90s, early thousands, probably. Probably the 90s.
You think you're better than me, don't you?
Well, you've got the shame associated with it, so I don't know what sort of high ground you're trying to bring to this.
Yeah, but the shame turns into aggression.
Okay, you're lashing out.
Yeah.
I've eaten at KFC in the past year. Does that make you feel better? Yeah.
It does. Because KFC is the worst of everyone. It's way worse than McDonald's. You're a piece of shit.
It was Casey's birthday present.
So wait, what? Case isn't he a fitness?
Yeah,
guru?
But he only does CrossFit so he can eat shit, which is much more relatable, to be honest.
I massively respect that.
Yeah, so he likes a KFC. I didn't really want to go, but I'm a nice boyfriend. Went to KFC.
Did you enjoy it?
I mean, it's not awful. I just wouldn't choose it. I
used to work at KFC, dude.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's my first job.
Your first job was at KFC. What did you do?
Everard Park. I was an all-rounder.
All round.
I mean, I didn't cook it clean.
Okay, you're at the tills.
I was at the tills. I could put the chicken in the box, and I could wrap a twister.
Okay, wow, those are life skills. Yeah. It's important to know how to put chicken in boxes.
I mean, do you know what we used to do? it's not criminal now. I mean, it was criminal, but what we used to do was my dad would come in to the store and pretend to be, pretend not to know us, pretend not to know me. And he'd be like, hey, good evening, young man. I'll get and he'd just order like the minimum amount, like a one-piece chicken thing. And I'd just pack up like a bucket full of chicken and like shove all this shit in, and he'd take it home. He'd pay $4.
Yeah.
And then when I got home, we just had heaps of chicken. We had like a whole Ocean's 11 thing going on.
Sticking it to the man.
Yeah.
Hello, young man. I don't know who you are, but I would like one small piece of chicken, please.
I mean, how creepy is that? Like just one man ordering one piece of chicken.
All I need is a little pick-me-up. Yeah. I much prefer to go
just dropped in here for a snack.
Yeah, I'm just here for just a little nibble. I much prefer a Nando's if I'm going to go get chicken somewhere.
Yeah, you said this before.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been to Nando's once in my life. I think that perfectly exemplifies the difference between you and me. I think in a weird way. You're kind of a hoity-toity.
Yeah, and you're a racist.
And I'm a racist.
Yeah, hate the Portuguese.
I do love the Portuguese. I love like a peri-peri. Peri-peri's very, very good. They can have that. As far as I don't.
They can have that for free. Yeah.
This is peri-peri good, I gotta say.
Well, I'm sure that no one in any of the advertising agencies have thought of this previously, so they're going to be really grateful that you've thrown that one into the mix.
You're welcome, Nando's.
Yeah. Welcome to Deep Thought, everybody. Nice to be back. It is so fucking hot in my bedroom right now. I'm sweating. If you hear it dripping into the microphone, that's unacceptable, and I would like to apologize. This is a podcast. We talk to each other and make the world a better place. Sitting through the internet. Michael, here's an empty space for you to divulge some wisdom. And 3, 2, 1.
Hello.
Got it wrong again. And my name's Nick. Hi, Nick. Hi.
New haircut.
I quite like it.
Didn't say anything.
So,
I feel a bit chavvy, to be honest.
Chavvy.
That's what Emma says. No, my word. I've never said it before.
You tried to brush it off as a normal thing that you've said. I feel a bit chavvy. What does chavvy mean? I don't know, but that's what I feel.
Emma called and said I look like a chav.
Okay.
First night, weirdly, by the way, came home. I was like, "What do you think of the haircut?" She goes, "Yeah, nice haircut." Second night, she comes home drunk, and then that's when the
truth
criticism comes out. She's just looking at me. She's going, "Your haircut makes you look like a chav." I'm like, "What is a chav?"
Have you?
I didn't look it up.
You didn't? Okay, well, I'll look it up for you.
Thanks.
Used it as a disparaging term for a poor or uneducated young person, especially one who behaves in a brash or vulgar manner and wears ostentatious clothing and jewelry. That's a perceived common taste insult in clothing and lifestyle.
I think it's a British thing.
It's sort of like a British bogan.
Well, that hurts.
I mean, do you know what could be the case? And this is just a little bit of a
she's jealous.
A cover-up. She's jealous is one. But it could be, you know how the first day of a haircut, when you come home with it, it's like it's still got his or hers finalizing of it. Like they've zhuzhed it nicely. They've got their sort of salon products in it a bit. Then the second day, you've had a shower, like you're the one in charge of it, and you can just never quite get it the same way. So it could be that actually she did genuinely like it the first time, and then the second day when it was in your responsibility, you just fucked it, and that was what she was picking up on.
I think that's very possible that's happened. But also,
I think it looks nice. I think
you need a week. I think it looks all right today.
Yeah.
But I think with a haircut, you need a week. It needs to grow out for a week for you to fully realize how good or bad it is.
Yeah.
But as you know, I've been traumatized with these haircut situations.
So here's the question: did you go back to the same place? Where did you go?
Different place altogether.
A third place.
Yep.
Okay. How did you choose this one?
Much nicer.
Much nicer than the one who got it wrong last time? Or than the Juji one that you rebooked?
So the Juji one was like, that's like $100 haircut. This was a cool 50, which I think is reasonable for a man. But to be fair, this one I was trying to get in when lockdown finished the first time, and I couldn't get in because everyone was, clamoring to get their hair trimmed.
Yeah.
So this was originally my first choice.
Okay, so now you're feeling pretty confident. You've been back. You liked what happened. Reasonable rates. This is going to be your new normal.
I think so.
Didn't embarrass yourself in front of your snippist.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah, the snippist.
He was a very macho man. It was weird. He was quite trendy, but he looked like Bruce Willis. He was like, "G'day, mate. How you going?" He had no hair, and I was like, "Why do all male hairdressers have no hair?" I don't. They've got no hair
because they spend all day doing it. And they're just like, "I just can't be fucked."
Yeah. But he also, another weird thing. This is the first weird thing. What am I doing? I'm trying to exaggerate everything.
I think that you should be more confident in your storytelling and believe that this is interesting without trying to resort to cheap tricks.
No, yeah, this is interesting. What I'm about to say is interesting.
This is interesting.
I am interesting.
Michael, you are interesting. Say it again.
I am interesting.
Say it again.
I am interesting.
There we go.
I am interesting.
There we go. See, feel better?
Felt really good, dude.
So what happened when you went to the hairdresser?
I'd love to know what Emma's thinking. Me just shouting, I am interesting. I love it to come back in and be like, the podcast hasn't started yet.
Yeah, this is just me just getting into the zone.
When I walked in there, I was wearing a mask. Everyone's still wearing masks, in Melbourne. And the first guy comes up to me and he goes, "G'day, mate," shakes my hand, puts his hand out to shake. And I'm like, I'm not going to bat away a shaking hand, like a handshakey. And then the second guy comes up and puts his hand out for a handshake. And I'm like, I haven't shaken hands with anyone since the 90s. And then when I got in the chair, I had my mask on. He was like, "You don't need that." I look around. No one is wearing a mask.
What?
Weird.
So it was not required? As in, it's not the law that you have to wear it in?
It is the law.
Okay.
It is the law.
That's weird. And you took it off?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll succumb to peer pressure like that. I'm not going to be the loser in a mask, am I?
Wow. That seems like a risk. He was bald, though, so maybe he was like, well, I can't get COVID.
What?
Bald people, less hair, can't get COVID.
Is that true?
Are you saying it's not true?
No, I'm just saying, how could that be true?
I know.
Who told you that? Sesame Street.
There was a couple of bald guys who came up and coughed in my face, and they said,
"Really?
Don't worry about it, mate. Can't get COVID."
Wait. So you're on the street?
I was on the street. I was walking down the street. I was wearing a mask because it was
two bald guys.
Two bald guys came up.
Two bald guys.
Yeah.
They came up and they just intentionally coughed in your face.
They coughed in my... No, it wasn't an accident. It was like they spotted me and I crossed the road and they followed, and then they came up and they coughed at me.
This sounds like an attack.
Well, but again, they can't get COVID because they're bald.
And what they call you?
I can't really repeat the word. But it was there was definitely some aggressive sort of intent. But again, I think it was safe. Do you know? Because they were bald.
Right. Bald guys feel safe.
Bald guys
feel that for sure.
Can't get COVID. Yeah.
I think you might have been lied to. Honestly, I wasn't there.
The is starting to take, as I retell the story, this is starting to take on a different character.
Feels like a lie, doesn't
I
it?
thought this was sort of like just a fun kind of, just like a fun gag.
No,
But
not a fun
as
gag.
I say it aloud, starting to have a different tone, and starting to wish that I did not then shave my head and go around and cough in other people's faces.
You shave.
Well,
your head?
again, because they said it sounded almost like a vaccination sort of situation where once the hair's
wow.
gone, you're safe to go cough on people.
Okay.
And I just thought maybe I should just skip the queue, skip waiting for this
Yeah.
jab. I mean, it sounds like it's only 80% effective anyway.
Oh, so you are on the way to getting a vaccine?
Yeah, I just decided, let's call it off. Cancelled the thing at the nurse and just booked straight
Right.
in with the hairdresser.
You know, actually, now that you've told me that, I think it's sounding a bit
Do you feel
strange.
better about being at the hairdresser now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe you should shave your head too.
I have been thinking about it.
Have
Like,
you?
not shaving, but like maybe like a number 2 all over.
Number 2.
Yeah. Like a twosie.
Why do you feel like if you're going to shave all the way, you still want to leave something?
Because I like to do things, but I don't like to commit all the way. It's like I like being in a relationship, but I don't want to get married. You know? I
Does
don't
Emma
wanna-
know this?
Well, I just heard her coming down the stairs, so maybe. Yeah, I don't want to get married now or ever.
Sure.
But yeah, do you want to get married?
Yeah, at some point.
So I was using the line, I don't want to get married until everyone can get married, and then gay marriage came
Yeah,
in and
that's
fucked everything up for everyone, didn't
Ruined it, didn't they? And
Assholes.
just another case of the LGBT community oppressing straights.
it? Yeah, it's my burden. That is what I have to live with, and I don't. You don't see me complaining. That's the thing. I don't complain.
I'm just holding up my hand over your forehead to try and work out what you look like
All right.
without... I think you could pull it off.
The problem is,
Would
my
you keep the
nose.
beard?
I'll look. Yeah, I'd keep the beard, but if from the side, I would look like Mr. Squiggle because it's like it would just accentuate the roundness, and then this like if you can just imagine a circle and a triangle in the middle.
You'd look like a kid's drawing of yourself.
Yeah, it's exactly what. Yeah, you just add in a couple of eyes there, and you'd be like, "That's Michael Zabrecki." So I might keep the chav.
Keep the chav. I think you've done all right.
Yeah. Thanks.
Shall we talk about the Facebook situation? The news.
Yeah, man.
The news about the
talk
news. News about news.
Yeah. So is this happening in New Zealand as well?
No, this is Australia. This is a uniquely Australian predicament.
Interesting. Why are you so over? Like I feel like over the last few years you've gotten out of touch with Australian news. Is this a big story in New Zealand?
It did get a little bit of coverage, but it wasn't really. It wasn't a top story in most places. I think the context of it was more the potential. So we should take a step back and say that for anyone who doesn't know, currently Facebook in Australia bans the sharing of Australian news content. So articles from websites like the ABC and like the television networks and all of those sort of industry bodies cannot be shared to other either on those pages from those organizations directly or posted into feeds by Australian citizens. And that is a response to the Australian government's introduction of a law which is effectively a link tax, insisting that if you link to a website, you have to pay that website money. And so this was a big ScoMo conservative, like Liberal Party policy. And it was also affecting Google, who indexes news websites for their search engine. it looks like Google's actually folded and has sorted out a deal with the government, but Facebook has decided, nope, fuck you. We told you this isn't going to work. We don't want to pay you to send traffic to your websites. So we're just going to not allow the sharing of any news content whatsoever.
Yep.
How did
By the
this...
way, Google sorted out a deal with the individual channels, like Channel 7, and is sorting out deals with Channel 9 and the ABC. So not necessarily with the government.
Thank you for the clarification. This is part of the bigger question about this. Like, I'm not one to really have much love for Facebook as an organization, but I think they're right here. I think these big tech
Really?
I think these big tech companies are actually right on this issue, and the Australian government is wrong on it.
Please explain.
Before we get into that, can you just tell me what it was like internally? Because I nothing changed in my use of these apps, right? So what happened on Thursday or whatever? Did you notice a distinct change in your feeds and everything?
Yep. So there was when I woke up on that day, there was no news on the Facebook app. So usually when I wake up, regrettably, I'll scroll through and I'll check the news.
And you use Facebook to surface news articles for yourself?
I do, because look, I was having this debate with someone at work that they're saying you shouldn't be consuming your news like that anyway. And I was arguing that Facebook is actually quite a good and, what's the word? Cultivated? No.
Like an aggregator.
Yeah. Because you've actually put that information in. So it's actually giving you news that you want to a certain degree. So that was my argument. And when I woke up that morning, there was no news. So not immediately obvious on your Facebook newsfeed, but then when I wake up, I watch like ABC News Breakfast as well, and that was the big story. So then I'm checking back and I'm like, oh, there's no news. Everything else is obviously working, but then when you go to like the ABC News page, it says no posts. There's just no content on there whatsoever.
That's the ABC News Facebook page, you mean?
Facebook page, sorry. Yeah. And then if you went to even like Broadsheet, nothing.
Yeah.
Or Triple R Radio, nothing.
And so that was one of the controversies as well, right? It was such a broad filter that it actually blocked things that were outside the remit of the law by most definitions. So things like emergency health services, like health boards, were blocked. Satirical websites were blocked. Independent groups with for NGOs and that sort of stuff, or community services, were blocked as well. So
it
like
was 1-800 Respect was blocked. Like a big
they just sort of everything. Automatic nuke of the Australian ecosystem.
Didn't feel that certainly made it feel not thought through. So I think the general tone amongst Aussies at the moment is pretty sour against Facebook. Like it's left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And it's this weird thing that it's like you're choosing like your two least favorite children. So you got the Liberal Party and you got big tech. It's like, fuck, I hate both of these clowns. And I think the tone, even amongst like ABC, which is quite left leaning, I would say, compared to the other news outlets on Australian TV, everyone is pretty much in agreement that Facebook is in the wrong here, and they don't deserve the Australian people haven't deserved what Facebook have done. So I want to hear what your take is.
So I think Facebook is perfectly legitimate in doing what they did here. I think from a tech perspective, the law that the government is implementing is idiotic and anti-free web and doesn't even make rational sense, let alone technologically achievable. So they want the companies, the platforms that direct traffic to a news organization to pay the news organization for linking to their website. This is something which drives traffic to the news organizations. It is a generally positive thing for the news organizations that a link is shared on Facebook. And yet they're expecting those platforms to pay for the privilege of linking to somewhere else. The idea of a link tax is a historical boogeyman in the formation of the open internet. The idea, one of the fundamental tenets of the internet is the idea that you can link to anything. That's why it's magic. You can take that URL and type it, and anyone in any browser can click it and go anywhere, right? That's the magic at a fundamental level to the World Wide Web. And one of the reasons it was successful is because there were no associated fees with connecting one thing to another, right? This idea of a link tax, right. You can look it up historically. It was discussed in early days and everything. The analogies here are so odd as well. Like, it's like a local plumber, demanding that the Yellow Pages pay the plumber for the act of directing customers to them, right? It doesn't make any sort of sense when the purpose of that platform is actually sending people your way to then expect them to pay for that when it's doing you the benefit. The underpinning sort of policy goal behind the implementation of this law, to me and to some of the other commentators that I've seen, is basically another Liberal Party reward to the Murdoch institutions which have backed them and kept them in power. Because what its actual final goal is getting big tech to pay Rupert Murdoch for sharing Murdoch articles, right? So this isn't the government directly saying, here, Murdoch, have $100 million. But in policy outcome, it is enabling the big media institutions who have dominated the Australian landscape for so long to go off and have to negotiate, or in fact have the big tech people have to negotiate with them in order to cut a deal and get money directly into their pockets. And smaller sites, smaller places that don't matter to those big tech companies don't get anything, don't have that leverage, and all of the traffic just disappears. So I think that on a technical level, on a policy level, it is completely bunk. And Facebook gave them warning as well. Facebook said months ago, if you try and institute this, we'll just turn off. We'll flip the switch and it'll be off. And then they continued to do it and they implemented it. And Facebook was like, well, we fucking told you. Flip. Now there's no news. The interesting one is Google. Google caving is kind of interesting and deciding they're going to pay people.
But they're quite they operate quite differently, don't they? Because Google, you can actually pay to have your news article, your website, your link higher up in the Google search, can't you? So
you can't change the natural algorithm placement. You can try and game it a little bit by SEO, but you can pay for an ad. You can pay for a keyword search. So if someone searches antivirus, Norton probably pays money to have Norton antivirus at the top as an ad. But that doesn't affect the natural position. It just means you're buying ad space around it.
So they don't doctor the search engine results at all?
They don't allow third parties to change the position of it just by paying money for it. But you can pay for an ad.
Well, then in that case, Joe Rogan's been telling some porky pies.
Look, I'll do a quick Google, but I'm confident that you can't.
Well, don't do it on Google, mate.
Well, that's true. Well, they would be the ones to know. Can you pay Google to change your
It'll just come up with a box in the corner saying, no,
it
we
says,
don't.
Yeah, nah. It's all it's search engine optimization. So it's making sure that you put the right information into your website, link to other good pages or have them link to you. Like, the actual maths of the algorithm is a tightly held industry secret, so they don't actually tell you what the magic formula is because they don't want people rigging it. But people still do their best.
So what's the government's argument for this?
That's a good question. I think it has been claimed, and I haven't read their statement on this super closely, but I think that it's been claimed that it's like a fair use sort of thing. Like, if your platform is going to use our content, then you need to pay us for it. That doesn't make any sense because they're not using the content; they're just sending a link to it, right? They're redirecting people. They're not reproducing it. They're just forwarding people to it. So I don't think that's a very strong argument. But I think it's coming from that perspective of big tech can't get a free ride by taking advantage of the stuff that these local companies make.
I guess people, just playing devil's advocate here, I guess people do go to Facebook and do look to Facebook as a source of news, and it kind of collects whatever news outlets you might be interested in. It kind of collates them and puts them in a nice little box. So maybe there's something there. But
I agree.
Yeah.
I think you're totally right. As an aggregator, it's incredibly powerful. It is the site that a lot of people got news from. That was part of the problem when they weren't fact checking all that election shit, when they were letting any kind of random nonsense get spread around without oversight. It was such a hub that information was being shared. So as an aggregator, you're totally right. But whenever you went to click on that information, you're loading a browser. Like Facebook has the built-in browser, and that website loads, and that website gets the click. So their numbers improve, their views improve by having it shared. The other thing, which I'll
go on.
Sorry, the thing that Google, the position that Google was in was actually quite difficult as well, and slightly different, because one of the policies in the law was they had to notify. Excuse me, I saw you. I was prepared to change it even as I said it. They had to notify.
Perfect.
The media organizations 30 days in advance of any changes to their search algorithm that might affect the way their content was presented on a Google search. This is completely insane. Completely insane. One, technologically speaking, I don't know how any news organization is going to use the information that Google would be able to tell them, if compelled to, about the way their algorithm works. Two, this is the most highly kept secret that Google possesses. The way that algorithm spits out results is $1 billion formula, literally $1 billion formula. They're not going to fucking give it to anyone. Three, technologically speaking, it is constantly changing. They're tweaking it every single fucking day. And so any of these changes having to be supplied 30 days in advance is completely infeasible, makes absolutely no sense, and would be fundamentally disruptive to their business model. Completely impractical. So it is a nonsensical request, and I have to believe it is either a completely bad faith as a way of getting Google on board and to negotiate down from insanity to some kind of compromise which benefits the news corporations as the government wanted. Or B, it is an absolute nonsensical demonstration of the government's fundamental lack of understanding of how these corporations work and the technology that underpins it all, because it is just ludicrous.
A lot of the pushback that I'm seeing online to this is about the hypocrisy of Facebook. So people claiming that Facebook deciding to pull the plug now when people asked them to pull the plug on, I can't think of an example.
The genocide stuff.
Yeah, or even the New Zealand massacre, the Christchurch massacre.
Yeah.
They claimed that they didn't pull the video because no one reported it, or
Yeah.
no one was offended by it. So them deciding to pull their plug now is just more evidence of their hypocrisy and their self-interest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be both.
Sure.
I think it can be totally both. That Facebook is generally a bad company, generally self-interested. That Zuck, with his 51%, is generally only out for himself, rather than seeing it as a international responsibility in the way that he allows information to be shared and his platform to be a meeting place for people around the world. And also, in this instance, while being also completely hypocritical, that this is something they've taken an interest in when all of the other atrocities that they let through didn't get attention, can be because it was this is the one that costs them money, or this was the one that was a legal fight they didn't want to get into, and this is the one that, at the end of the day, they don't really care whether or not they send traffic to Australian news websites. So for them, fuck it, turn off the switch, who cares? We're not going to pay you money for it. This saves us money. If it pisses people off, well, it's not that big a market. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Australia's not really a big market in the scheme of things, is it? And like, that's why Australia's reaching out now to like India and places that have like, I think Facebook in India is the biggest in the world,
Right.
and they're seeing India now as an ally and trying to get them on their side. But I think from Facebook's point of view as well, that if they let this go ahead, I mean, other countries are looking and watching to see what happens here. If they let this go ahead, this could open the floodgates, you know?
It's true. Yeah, and I think that's possibly part of the reason why they took such a big stand about it.
Sure.
I do think Australian organisations will suffer. Like, this is going to be the ultimate irony of this, right? Is if the legislation that's brought in to try and bolster the existing news organisations actually ends up crippling them, because without those sharing platforms to direct traffic to them, no one's going to see their content. And ultimately, I mean, who knows? Because the News Corp monoliths and Fairfax merged, but you know, the other existing Australian institutions, they have proven historically to be less adept at the online world than some of the 21st century upstarts, and potentially those new brands which have their own existing kind of millennial enthusiasts might end up finding themselves prospering when the big dogs are out of the game a little bit. So yeah, who knows which way it's going to go, but currently it doesn't look like anyone in the media is getting the support that the law is expected to bring in.
No one in the media is looking like they're getting the support?
Yeah, none of those organizations are currently getting paid anything, and in fact they've probably lost a bunch of traffic. So it's had the opposite effect of the law. It's just a game of chicken now, as to see whether the Australian government caves and changes the terms, or Facebook comes back to the table.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They're saying Josh Frydenberg's saying he's in talks with Zuckerberg now, and it's progressing. But on Friday morning, when this all happened, he had said, "Yeah, just had a great chat with Mark, and we're looking like we're going to get to the bottom of it." And then 2 hours later, the lights were out. It's like, how good was the chat, Joshy? But it's affected my job already. I mean, it's happened on Friday. I mean, my job is to pitch out to news organizations, and try and get things on TV, and part of that is online hits.
Yeah.
So it is really weird seeing all this happen, and seeing the like, I communicate directly with people from Channel 7 and Channel 9 and the ABC. And it's so weird seeing how no one was prepared for this.
Yeah.
And now it's, first of all, very clear how many people... I mean, people don't watch free-to-air TV anymore.
No.
That's what these channels are.
Yeah.
Having social media for free-to-air basically cuts out your millennial market, for sure, for one thing. I mean, and then you've only got, the over 60s.
Yeah.
Watching... I mean, if they don't have the socials, they're fucked. So they're gonna have to come to some sort of agreement here.
And this is the ultimate, again, Facebook is not, on the whole, a good company, right? Previously, they fucked over a ton of website businesses by pivoting to video, by deciding that video was going to be favored in their news feeds and their timelines, and literally juicing the numbers, claiming that there was more viewers on social video than there actually were. And this was something that came out a couple of years ago. I think we possibly even talked about it. But all of the numbers about video reach on Facebook are basically wrong. And they reflected something like 1 second of interaction or an autoplay, not anyone actually watching the video content. And yet off the back of these numbers, just about every news organization or blog or journalist had to rework and fired written journalists and brought in video people to try and make a transition to a platform that was actually not going to deliver the kind of returns that Facebook promised. So their previous interactions with the journalist field and the news organizations have not exactly been excellent previously either. So it's a little bit it's another blow to the existing entities that have already suffered from potentially taking Facebook at their word to try and get more traffic, and now the pipeline's completely gone.
Yeah. What's funny as well is seeing these parody news sites like Chaser and Batuta just Stephen Bradburying to the finish line here, and now they're like, I saw a meme the other day, it cracked me up. It was, I think the Chaser posted it, and it was like, it was a reporter holding a microphone to like a llama that looked very confused. They were saying this is essentially what's happened right now when people are now looking to us for the news.
Well, to their credit, the Chaser, that was actually what I quoted earlier, the local plumber analogy. That was the Chaser, and it was part of a article that they posted called A Complete List of the Liberal Party Corruption Over the Last 7 Years. It is not satire. It is literally an aggregate of all of the various scandals. And the lead on it is, thanks to the Facebook news ban, we're somehow the only news site in Australia. So here's some serious journalism listing all the questionable decisions that ScoMo and co made after he forgot to check with Jenny first. And then it's just a list of, God, I keep scrolling, 124 controversies that are just sourced, just a big old list with links to other reputable news sources. That was them both taking the piss at the Facebook ban, but then also legit doing some journalism. It's
fucking goons, the Liberal Party. Have you heard about this news scandal, by the way? With
which one?
Which is what they're referencing there with the Jenny. So
the Jenny thing, yeah,
the rape in Parliament House. Have you been following that?
I've seen a little bit of it, but I don't know the original assault scandal kind of question. I only saw the response to it, which was ScoMo being completely unsympathetic until his wife was like, but what about if it was your daughter? And then he was like, that might be a bit different, hey? Like,
it's... I don't know who his publicist is or his media trainer is, but in his head you can hear him. He thinks, this is the way to the heart of Australians. I'm a father first, and Jenny just put it. She's got a way of just clarifying things, and when I realised that I have a daughter too, and I don't want my daughter to get raped, then I could realise that I don't want this young Britney girl to get raped either. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's such a like sociopathic lack of empathy. Just the whole, well, I can't understand what's happening to another person unless you can directly link it to me personally.
I mean, that's the implication. I don't necessarily think he does lack empathy. I think it was a poor choice of words. I mean, he might he's a fucking goon, so who knows? But definitely a poor choice of words.
Yeah.
And one thing I've like really realized this week, because I've spent the first 3 days working from home with the lockdown. So every afternoon I had what do you call it? It's like the Parliament House where they go, "Oh, Mr. Speaker, the Treasurer, fucking, Mr. Speaker."
Yeah, like
when
question
they do that?
time.
Is that called question time?
It depends what particular thing was.
It's when
happening,
they're all
yeah.
in the Parliament House. Oh,
Yeah.
man, what's going on there? What are we in, medieval times?
That's what it's
so
always like. You
stupid.
just don't see anything about it.
It's so silly. I know. But what I was going to say is the Liberal Party is so like macho. Like not macho, but like such a blokey kind of culture. Like these guys, they've got
real,
this
like,
smarmy
80s
kind of
masculinity.
exactly. Like got this cocky look on their face. They smirk all the time. There's like 3 women in there. They're just as misogynistic as the men. And then the Liberal Party and the Labour Party on the other side, they just look like meek, like nerds.
I like, this is unreasonable, and I would still prefer a Labour government by just about any metric. But fuck, they shit me off, Labour. At least with Liberal, you know what you're getting. They're very honest in their complete corrupt bullshit. Labour is just like so galling in their useless centrism, where they don't actually operate as an opposition at all. And the Albanese's useless. I haven't heard from him in the past 9 months. He's so uninteresting. They're so complicit
Totally
in all
agree.
of these like government decisions which should be seeing pushback. Like, it is literally only the Greens and the smaller parties that offer actual pushback on these things, because Labor's in the same camp for most of the time. It's such a unappealing tactic to try and get back into power, because it is not satisfying to anyone who wants actual change, and anyone who voted for the Conservatives Party isn't going to be swing over to Labour just because they have the same policy. It just so
they
frustrating.
suck. The boss, everyone sucks.
I think ultimately, like, some of this stuff does come back to the media environment in Australia, because it is 80% Murdoch, right? And Murdoch hates Labour, so some of that is tied up in the tactics of there's nothing that we can propose that won't get beaten up in the media. So we've got to try and play the game and be as close to Liberal as we can, so that Roop doesn't launch an assault on us. But the lack of diversity and the ease with which the big corporate interests get a fair shake in the Murdoch media in Australia has truly infected the politics side of it as well.
Yeah, surely Murdoch's going to die soon.
He's getting up there. He's 90.
He's really hanging
right?
in, isn't he?
Yeah.
And his sons, aren't his sons? Oh no, that's the Packers. Oh no, it's the Murdochs. The sons are a glimmer of hope, aren't they?
I think they're definitely. Is it Lachlan Murdoch is famously embarrassed by Fox News, and he hates it. He wants to get rid of it. So I think at a certain point, once Rupert's gone, maybe they'll be like, let's sell that off or shut that down or whatever. But I don't know.
As if you're fucking 110 years old and still care about power. It's like when people get to the end of their life and they're like, I wish I spent more time with my family and I wish I cared less about money. Rupert Murdoch's like, I wish I cared more about money.
Yeah,
like he's
my
learned
empire
nothing
is
in
still
life.
too small.
He's learned nothing over the course of his life.
Yeah,
still not enough.
It's the intersection between these multinationals and individual governments is going to be a real topic of interest in the next decade, because the big tech companies are effectively nation states all of their own. And while they have to operate geographically in all these different regions, they have, in some cases, 100 times the GDP of these places. Like, they are legitimate forces of their own. And the consequences of an arbitrary decision, like, well, we'll flip off the switch to the Australian news pipeline can have legitimate nationwide consequences for those places. And I feel like we're starting to come to the point where even the old people in government are looking around and saying, these companies are maybe doing something a little bit shady. Should we try and regulate this a little bit? It's just, of
Just
course,
looking at a globe, it's like, Google us, Dan.
Wow.
What's that country?
Where'd that come from? But now that, like, if there is one weird, this is a very minor compliment, but if there is one good thing to come out of this legislative shit show, I think it is the conceptual idea that the government is trying to regulate the way that some of these international big tech companies operate locally, where before they'd just been able to do basically what they wanted. It's just unfortunate that the implementation of the law is completely ridiculous and ass backwards, and we'll see what happens.
I think at the very least, it should be an interesting experiment for Australian social media users and news consumers. I mean, we're going to have an undefined a period of time without the news, and apparently the ABC on that Friday, I think is when it happened. ABC News app was the most downloaded app in Australia, of which I was one of them. You're not getting your news in the same way that Facebook was going to give you your news. Like, if there's a breaking story on Facebook, you're gonna spend 10 seconds scrolling on your phone before you come across it. The ABC News app doesn't work quite the same way. Like, I mean, it does. You're not going to get those little ones.
It's one source versus 40 sources.
Exactly. But it will be an interesting... I mean, I've definitely consumed less news in the 3 days that we've had this, and maybe be a nice change of pace.
I was going to say, I think there could be some positives that come out of this change. I mean, people spending less time on Facebook is probably a good thing. But also, there was a sweet time in the late aughts before Facebook and these kind of places really took over as a dominant space, where people visited different websites. Rather than just going to the one hub, you'd type in ABC, you'd type in, I guess, Adelaide Now or whatever it was, or you'd type in news.com.au, or your gaming website, or these kind of places, and you'd browse to those individual brands. That hasn't gone away. That's still possible. People can go to blogs. They can go to these places directly, and it's quite possible, as you said, like the ABC News app is going to be better off for having all those people install it. I wonder if this continues long term, whether in Australia those real news-hungry types will go to Twitter, because Twitter will let you share those links. I wonder if RSS might get a return. I think it's probably a little bit...
What's RSS?
A little bit niche. So RSS feeds are a technological underpinning.
That's what we use on the pod, right?
It is, exactly. It is the back end for podcasts, probably most famously at this point, the back end for podcasts. It is basically a live feed that an app or a browser will pull from various sources, and you get a feed of all of the latest updates from places. So before something like Facebook existed, you would either get an app or you would use a browser which had an RSS reader built in, and then when you went to go read ABC, there'd be that little sort of antenna wave signal, which is now sort of commonly associated with the podcast icon. That would then add all of the news articles for that website into your reader. So back in the day, like my video game website had an RSS feed, and I'd add multiple different places, and then you'd just get a little ping, a notification in your browser or on the app when there's a new article up, and you got the direct feed pipeline from those places without the social media back end of it all. So it's possible that that is going to be quite appealing to some people, and maybe you see a resurgence in that kind of tech. If anyone is actually interested in trying that out, you could get something like NetNewsWire, which is on the Mac, or I think the Vivaldi browser has a built-in RSS app, or if you want to try there. But just go and add your favorite websites to an RSS reader, and you'll get the latest news directly from them as it happens.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's not going to give you that Facebook does is that Facebook knows you to a degree, maybe to a large degree. So they know that, every time there's a news article with Shia LaBeouf's mentioned, they know that you're going to click on that link. So you're going to get the top stories from these apps, but you're not going to get the all the stuff in between. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I agree.
But in the meantime, I'm kind of looking forward to some time off.
Yeah, it'll be.
And the stories that you need to know about, you'll know about them. Like your friends will tell you, or you'll hear in conversation, or you'll see it on the news at the gym. It's the little shit, the doom scrolling and the whatever else scrolling, just mindless scrolling. Maybe it will put a bit of a stop to that. But that's why I think the Facebook thing's a bit weird, because your newsfeed still looks the same. So you're getting less news articles, but if no one told you that Facebook had done what they'd done, you'd be like, you wouldn't. I think it would take you a while to realize that there was no news in your Facebook feed. So I wonder if this move by Facebook will actually work for people, because I think they might just get used to it pretty quickly too. Then they might be like, all right, well, I don't get my news from Facebook anymore. I get it from Twitter, like you said, or I get it from the ABC News app. So it might not actually work, but I do get it. Like with Uber, if Uber decided that they weren't going to, they were like, Australian government's introduced some law and we can't operate in Australia anymore. That's like a thing that people have become entirely used to.
Yeah. Now,
so that would be a whole different thing.
Do you know of any Australian rideshare companies?
No.
It's interesting because the New Zealand market has a couple, and Zoomy is one that actively promotes itself as by New Zealanders, like by Kiwis for Kiwis, and it's based you don't lose any functionality. It is the same, but they do theoretically pay a better rate to drivers, so they market themselves as being more equitable for locals and locally owned, which I think has seen some significant growth here.
Are there enough drivers?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Cool.
So it'll be interesting to see whether, in the absence of a multinational corporation, local alternatives pop up. Is there going to be an Australian Facebook or an Australian news aggregator, at least, that might pull together these sites and go, hey, here's your one-stop shop. We'll algorithmically give you what you want to know. Here's your interests. I mean, Apple News kind of does that a little bit as well, right? Have you ever been in the Apple News app?
Maybe a couple of times, but I might dust it out. It might be a good time to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already deleted my app, my Facebook app. I don't need it anymore, really. Facebook gives me nothing of worth. I mean, news was probably the biggest thing I got from it. People don't post to Facebook like they used to. They don't. If they post photos, they're going to post it. My friends will post to Instagram. Yeah. And then I have Twitter, which I'm newly, big fan of.
Big fan, indoctrinated.
Big Twitter guy now. Big Twitter guy. It's on the front page of my phone.
And you were gutted when Trump got banned, because that was the sole reason that you'd signed up.
100%. I think everyone misses Trump. I miss Trump massively.
I do not miss Trump.
Does people not miss Trump? No. Everyone misses Trump. Ugh. I haven't heard the word Biden in a week.
Yeah, isn't that lovely? Isn't that so nice?
I used to love waking up in the morning and go, oh, what's old Trumpy boy done today? Oh, look at that. He's in blackface on Halloween.
Totally plausible. I feel like out of due diligence, we should do... I want to do like a quick little update. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the lab leak hypothesis with COVID. I think it is only fair to follow that up now that there has been a little bit more coverage about it.
Please do. Can you do it just after I get a beer? I can still hear you, by the way, my thing. So if you want to just do that, I'll just run upstairs.
Okay, you'll be able to do that even remotely.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, that's weird.
Can I just do the pod from the other room?
Finally, that prick's gone for a second. I can just take a moment to get a breather from this inane chattering.
I can hear you, Nicholas.
This fucking asshole with his shitty haircut.
Yeah, I heard every word.
Hey, you're back. That was fast.
Heard all of that.
Heard of what?
Oh, you're moaning. You're bitching.
That's awkward. Okay, a little bit of an update. We'd previously talked about how it seemed like a reasonable possibility that the coronavirus in question, COVID-19, might have leaked out of a lab because in Wuhan there was a virus investigation lab thing there that was studying bat viruses. And again, well, I don't think either of us said this is definitely what happened. I think the conclusion we made.
I definitely thought it. I definitely started to believe it.
Okay, well that's more than reasonable. I think given that we had talked about it in such length, it is only fair to address the follow-up, which actually came out last week, about the WHO. This is the headline from the Washington Post. After the Wuhan mission on pandemic origins, the WHO team has dismissed the lab leak theory. So after a 12-day visit, World Health Organization mission to Wuhan appeared no closer to solving the mystery of the pandemic's origins, reiterating that the coronavirus likely spread to humans from an animal and casting doubt on theories it leaked from a lab. Basically, there was a lot of back and forth between the WHO and China trying to get access in the first place, trying to be let in to go and try and investigate this thing. China was not very forthcoming. They made this statement together, and it is still probably fair to say that the majority of people, the majority of scientists, believe that it came from an animal naturally and transmitted to humans and was not from a leak. But there are still people that disagree. As in, transmitted from a bat to an intervening animal to a human. So the mission was composed of Chinese and international researchers. The lead Chinese scientist told reporters that none of the labs in Wuhan had worked with the SARS-CoV-2 strain, as the novel coronavirus is officially called, but on its distant relatives. Instead, they pointed to the possibility that the virus jumped across species in nature through intermediary hosts. The judgment that they made was... So Ben Emberick, who was the WHO team, he told reporters that their judgment was based on a long, frank and open discussions with researchers and management at institutions, including the lab which was conducting the research on coronaviruses from bats. The institute provided detailed descriptions of the research, present and past, on all projects. They questioned these people extensively about what they thought of the lab leak hypothesis, saying that they are the best ones to dismiss the claims and provide answers to all the questions. So the WHO really did just take the lab's word on this stuff, which I think is a little bit interesting. That line of reasoning did draw skepticism from outside experts. So a microbiologist at Stanford said, if the only information you're allowing to be weighed is provided by the very people who have everything to lose by revealing such evidence, it doesn't come close to passing the sniff test. He suggested that they should have sought complete detailed records from the labs about their experiments going back a decade. There's also a professor of biosecurity at the University of New South Wales who was surprised to see the lab accident ruled out so quickly. Without exploring all leads, she suggested we may never know the origins of this virus.
So there's something
that it's not universal. It's also clear that China withheld critical information in the early days. They are seeking further access for the WHO and hope to continue with a return trip, but it's not yet confirmed that they'll get back in. But yeah, so interesting to see that the WHO makes that statement. Now, the other one that came out that's interesting and talking about the further earlier origins was based on the blood samples that they took on some of these people. And they discovered that there were 13 different strains in China before December. And so these variants suggest it had probably been circulating for longer than just the month. The genetic diversity sampled from December 2019 suggests it was circulating for a while longer. So the early origins of this thing are still very much in doubt. And there was no clustering, no sort of one hub which helped them, like which they could point to as the origins of it. So anyway, I suppose that's a little bit of retrospective science news. But
Well,
I just thought it was
it is
fair.
somewhat surprising that it didn't come out of the lab. Yeah, it is.
Well,
it does seem
the Chinese lab says it didn't come out of the lab, is the takeaway from this story.
All right, cool. So we'll just great.
It is a weird thing now. Did you watch the first Last Week Tonight back?
Yep, sure did.
It was super real, just depressing, but it was about the idea that we should be planning now for the next pandemic because it's likely to happen again, and all of these situations and things need investment and precautions and future proofing. That the moment that we're through the worst of this pandemic, the tendency of human nature is to go, well, that was weird.
Woo!
Let's not ever think about this again.
Yeah, yeah. Did they say on that like this is like we should treat COVID-19 as like training for the big event? I'm like,
Yeah, this isn't
are
the
you
bad
kidding
one.
me?
Yeah, this wasn't
This
the
is
bad.
the training.
Yeah,
Fucking hell.
yeah.
Well, I heard like someone else saying that after everyone gets vaccinated, by the way, which is going to be in 6 years by the time that the entire world is going to get vaccinated, that you're going to see like.
Have you heard that, or is that hyperbole?
Yeah. No, 6 years
years.
was
Was the quote?
was a quote from someone who's a scientist saying that's the whole world can be vaccinated in 6 years. But like in the 1917 or 1980 flu, then you had the Roaring Twenties. So they're expecting the next decade from like 2022 onwards just to be gangbusters.
Well, I mean, the thing I'm really holding out for is, and this is silly. I mean, that will be fun. It'll be nice to see everyone get out of this and get to enjoy themselves for a bit. But I'm really hoping that this will be a time for serious, like, systemic change, and that off the back of this, once the worst of it's behind us, it'll be an opportunity for people to go like, okay, now universal basic income, or green energy infrastructure revolution, or climate change kind of work, or
work-life balance.
Yeah, all of this kind of stuff which will come about from everyone being like, fuck, we just went through some shit and the world is not in a good place. Let's make some changes while it's good. That's what excites me. The idea that, okay, we might finally start doing some climate changes or safety net improvements in our society and that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, I hope our Roaring Twenties is like a worldwide recalibration where it's like, fuck, we got to change some things.
I hope so too. I just hope that travel comes back on the cards, and airplane travel. I mean, that's the thing that I really think, because they didn't have that in the 20s. That's the thing that we're probably not going to get that back for a while, for like a real while. And you and me, we're hitting our peak, baby. We're in our 30s. This is the best looking we're ever going to be. It's all downhill from here, especially for you. No, you can't do that. I did it first.
Speak for yourself. I think that's a lag. I think I technically got that in first. We'll check the tapes.
But you got the 30s is such a great time. It's like you still got the youth. You're starting to earn a bit of money. You know yourself a bit more. All these things, and spending inside the house. But I guess in New Zealand it's a bit different. Although you guys were locked down for a few days, weren't you?
Not us. Auckland. Auckland had 3 days of lockdown. So pretty.
Is anyone wearing a mask where you are?
No. But we did have to wear one weirdly on the ferry yesterday. Casey and I went for a day trip across to an island, and for some reason they made us wear masks, even though we're in level 1. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the first time I'd worn a mask in like 6 months.
It sounds like it would have been hard for you, man.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. Pretty tough. Oh, I had a thought, but I can't remember. So, if you would like to hear more of this podcast, there are plenty more episodes down in the feed. Go back, enjoy yourself, relive some of the early memories, or discover something new that you've never heard before. Then you can get in touch
Go
with
back
us.
and listen to the ones at the start of the pandemic. I listened to one. I went back and listened to us at the start of the pandemic, and it is. I mean, me especially. I'm a fucking idiot. I mean, we all knew that, but I was so cocky and stupid. I didn't give a shit.
To be fair, you knew about like. It was the very next podcast. It was the first podcast that I brought up. You're like, and then 2 weeks later, it was like, oh. So it didn't take very long for you to adjust.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
good time vault though.
Time vault is
that's why
that's the fun of it.
Yeah.
Send your questions or comments to deepforward@gmail.com. Rate us on Apple Podcasts. Find our tunes on SoundCloud. Head on the Twitter for a notification when it goes live. And on the Facebook page, I guarantee that Deep Forward is still up because we share 0 newsworthy content. Yeah. And I hope you all having a lovely day and that your hair looks great.
Thank you. Quick happy birthday to next dad, Jeff.
Birthday.
Happy birthday, Jeff.
Tuesday.
68.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And another birthday for a guy who's also in his 60s, I think. David Stewart.
Oh.
Happy birthday to Dave.
Happy birthday, Dave.
64 or something. 68. I don't know. Who cares? But happy birthday,
Dave
Dave
and
and Jeff.
It's all the same, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he genuinely looks older than your dad, and I think he's 10 years younger.
I'm sure he's going to be delighted for that birthday shout out.
Have you used your ball wipes yet? I was going to ask you.
Yeah. I've only,
You have?
Yeah, I've only got 4 left.
Are you serious? Are they
Yeah.
good?
Oh, it's just like
Why are they right next to you, dude?
well, because they're just on the shelf.
Gross.
Yeah.
But cool. That
Yeah,
you're using my
they're not
present.
that great at like cleaning up cum, but they're okay for just sweat and that sort of stuff.
I didn't even. Okay. This is I do it to myself. I do it to myself.
And that's why it really hurts.
Yeah.
No, thank you for your present.
Yeah, no worries.
Do you did you watch the Mars rover?
I didn't watch it live, but I watched a lot of footage afterwards.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool indeed.
My name's on Mars now. Did you put your name on the rover?
Did I? Surely I did.
I'm sure
You emailed it.
I'm sure that I would have let you know when it was an option.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah. What
You're on Mars, dude.
I'm home. What does that actually mean for the name?
I think they put it on like a chip on the rover. They just carried over all of your names.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
I think it's
I'm
more.
gonna get
What's the word I'm looking for? Like symbolic. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a few more tattoos, and I'm gonna get the golden record Voyager 1 tattoos,
Oh,
like the diagrams on there.
yeah, that's cool.
So that just in case if and when I get abducted by aliens, I'll be able to show them exactly.
They'll be able to like
to put me back.
Yeah, there were 10.9 million names on the rover. So they were stenciled by electron beam onto 3 fingernail-sized silicon chips, along with the essays of 155 finalists. They are then attached to an aluminium plate. So it is physically etched there, and I can actually show you the image if you open up your podcast player. You see up on the top of the image there is a tiny little band of 3 fingernail-sized squares that contains millions of names.
Wow.
So it actually
Yes!
is written there, visible.
Oh my
Isn't
god, that makes me
cool?
feel so good.
Yeah.
Ah. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wait, I really hope I'm fucking on this thing. I need to check through my emails or something.
Check your emails.
If I'm not on here, I'm gonna kill myself.
If you
Who
just
was it
type
by- from
NASA Mars.
Yep, I got an email, baby. Woo! I'm on Mars.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is. I'm so glad you told me that.
Yeah.
Cool. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah. Isn't that the best?
That is the best.
I would have just been satisfied with being etched by electron laser and left on Earth. Like, that sounds cool as it
Hell
is, let alone being shot to a different planet.
Oh my god. That is just the coolest thing. That's made my week, honestly. It
Yeah.
genuinely made my week.
It's sick.
So happy.